I'm so glad you're here. If you've ever been taught how to add decimals, you've probably been told something like this. Take your two decimal numbers, line up the decimal points, and then add down vertically. 8 plus 3 is 11. Carry the 1. 5 plus 2 is 7. 8. Bring down the decimal point, bring down the 0, and your answer is 0 and 81 hundredths. That is absolutely correct. However, I don't see any joy in that. And my name is Mr. G, and I'm here to talk about the joy of math. And the way I like to do that is with flower power. What you see before you is one plant. This is one single plant. On this plant, there are 10 flowers. On each of the 10 flowers, there are 10 petals. That means that on the whole plant, for one plant, there are 10 flowers, and there are 100 petals. For the purposes of this situation, I would like to think of the flowers representing the number 0.1 or 1/10, and the petals to represent the number 100th, because the plant represents the number 1. There are 100 petals, there are 10 flowers. I'm going to start by coloring in this many plants. That is less than one whole plant, so I am not going to color in the whole plant. I am going to color in 58 hundredths of a plant. 58 hundredths. If I look at what I thought about over here, that means that I can color in 58 petals. Okay? Is there a shorter way of thinking about that? I guess. Let's see. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4. 8, 9, 10. I've colored in 10 petals. Mathematically, I could write that in a number of ways. I could say I've colored in 1/10 of the flower. I could also say that I've colored in 10 hundredths of the flower. Both of those things are true. If I wanted to, I could also write that as 1/10. Or 10 over 100. Mathematics. I still have yet to color in 58 hundredths, though. Something I'm noticing about 58 hundredths is that I have a 5 in my tenths place. So that means I have 5 tenths and 8 hundredths. I think that means that I could color in 5 flowers, because remember, a flower is 1/10 of my entire plant. And then I'd have 8 petals also to color in. So I've colored in 1 flower. Let's keep going. I've colored in 2 flowers. I've colored in 20 petals. 2 tenths, 20 hundredths. Every petal that I color in is 1/100th of a plant. Every 10 petals is 1 flower. Every 1 flower is 1/10 of my plant. I have colored in 3/10 of my plant. I have colored in 30 hundredths of my plant. Depending on how you see my image, I have either colored in 4 items or I have colored in 40 items. I have colored in 4/10 of a plant. And I have also colored in 40 hundredths of a plant. I'm going to color one more flower in. Right now I have colored in 5/10 of a plant. I am also going to think of this as 50/100ths. I did not yet color in 58/100ths. I just did 5/10, which again we could also think of as 50/100ths. This is the same as this. We still have to deal with those 8/100ths. So that means I'm going to come over to another flower and I'm going to color in 8 of these petals because each petal represents 1/100th. There are 100 of these in my whole plant. Therefore, each of them is a 100th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. I have colored in 58/100ths of my plant. I did not color in a whole plant. That's why I have a 0 at the beginning of that number. I did color in more than half of this plant. You can see I colored in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 10, and then a little bit more than half. I am now going to switch colors. I'm going to use pink, and I'm going to color in 23/100ths. I'm going to add that amount here. We can think of that number, 23/100ths, as 2/10 and 3/100ths. That is what the place value tells us. This is in the tenths place, this is in the hundredths place. If this part is seeming confusing, I would suggest just reviewing something on place value with decimals. Once you learn what these numbers mean and how they relate to the fractions, visualizing it like this becomes a lot easier. I'm going to color in 2/10, and again, a tenth is a flower because there are 10 of them in our whole. So I'm going to color in 2 whole flowers. These crayons are so nice and silky. They're my favorite art supply. Now I have 3/100ths. So again, 100th is a petal, so I'm not going to color in another 3 whole flowers. I'm going to color in 3 petals. Let's see if I can finish off this flower over here. 1, 2. Now I've completed this entire flower. So I'm going to 1, 2. I have still a 3/100th to add, so I'm going to come over here. Which one do I choose? Which one? This one. And I'm going to color in just this guy. Decisions. So now, in my drawing, I've used blue to color in 5/10 and 8/100ths, also known as 58/100ths, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 8. And I've used pink to color in 2/10 and 2/100ths, and another 100th, 3/100ths, which is the same as 23/100ths. So I have 10, 20, 21, 22, 23. So I've colored in everything here. How does this relate to our math over here? Well, I colored in 58/100ths, and then I colored in 23/100ths. Do we have 81/100ths in our drawing? Let's see. That would be 8 flowers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And 1 petal. 1. Yes, we did get the same total. So we got the same solution, but there's even something else going on. This 1 over here. Do you remember when we added 8/100ths and 3/100ths and we wrote 11, but we had to carry that 1? You can see that in the image. When we tried to do 8 plus 3, we had to have 1 left over. We had 1/100th left over, and we combined 10 of those hundredths to make 1/10. So instead of writing 11/100ths down here, we wrote 1/100th and 1/10. That's where this comes from. This algorithm of lining up the decimals and carrying over numbers is the same idea as what we did here on our flower. Every time we got to 10 petals, we colored in a whole flower. And every time we color in 10 flowers, we get one whole plant. That's why the sum of 58 hundredths and 23 hundredths is still less than one whole, because we have 81 hundredths of a plant. We still do not have a whole plant filled in. If this is interesting to you and this is helpful to you, I encourage you to stick around, because in the next video, I will be talking about that each petal, if you see here, each petal is actually made up of 10 mini petals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you can see them in there. And each of those mini petals is worth 1,000th of a plant, because there are 1,000 of them in the whole plant. So you can already start to see how we could start adding and subtracting 3-digit decimals with this model. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope this video was helpful. I really appreciate the community that's been building here on YouTube. I started on other platforms, but I have a real feeling that YouTube is going to wind up being my home, because the community in the comments has just really been extremely validating for me and makes me feel like I'm reaching the people that I'm making these videos for. So if you have never been able to find the joy of math in the past, I encourage you to start now. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Mr. G. I'll see you next time.